Welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be breaking down this super soulful sample for Kendrick Lamar. Got a few gems in here for you guys, and yeah, let's get straight into it. A lot of the tracks on Kendrick's new album are very piano based, so that's why I started with this sample. I chose this Piano in Blue contact bank from Samples. It's probably my favorite piano VST. I laid down these super melodic simple chords. So the first chord is essentially a G major 9. The G, which is the bass note, I have on a lower octave. Then I have the rest of the chord up here. So if I bring the A up an octave and bring the G up an octave, you can see it's a G major, and then we've got the 7th, and then we've got the 9th note on top. But voicing it differently like this, it just helps to create such a different vibe, and that's how you can get much more emotion out of your chords. So that repeats twice. Then we move on to the second chord, which is the exact same concept. It's a major chord, but it's voiced in the same way, but this time it's a D major 9th chord. So that repeats again here, but I've voiced it slightly differently. As you can see, the F sharp comes up. That just helps create a little bit of variety. So this chord is just an F sharp minor. As you can see, I've got the F sharp on the bottom, and then we finish off on an A major 7th chord. In terms of the progression, it goes 6, 3, 5, and then the last chord is the number 7 chord. Now you'll notice it was very quiet. What I've done is put the velocities super low on all the notes. Personally, I just feel like the texture sounds better doing this. When the velocity is super high, the notes can be a bit too harsh for my liking. This is where the effects really come in to bring the sound out. First of all, I opened up the King's microphone from Waves. It's a microphone emulation that makes things sound like it's being run through an old vintage mic. You can get some really cool textures, especially on real instruments like a piano. I also have this EQ from Waves again. I actually chose a snare preset. I was just clicking through the presets and this one sounded really good. And you'll hear when I play it, it brings out a bunch of the high end. It really gives it that vintage sound. And finally, I've got another EQ, this time cutting some low end and boosting a little bit of the highs. Next, I grabbed this one shot from Layers Volume 2, which is going to be coming soon. I made sure I set it to stretch mode. This way the notes will be the same length regardless of what octave they're in. So when you have a one shot and you set it to stretch mode and then pitch it in a higher octave, I often find you get some really cool textures from that. So with the mallet, I copied the chords. They're just hitting in between though. Like I mentioned earlier, there's lots of piano-based songs on Kendrick's album. Songs like Purple Hearts incorporate synths in as well, so I wanted to do that. I chose the Chiclets preset from Louis and XY's Impulse Analog Lab Bank, and this is just more of a textural element. Again, I just copied one of the chords and had it hit on the second bar, so that sounds like this. That's too quiet and not present enough, so I added these effects. Started with a Valhalla delay, made it super long because I wanted to really drag it out. And then this decapitator, I learned this from Louis. He puts it on a bunch of his synths. I just opened it up, turned the drive up, brought the mix down a little bit, did a little bit of a low cut. Again, I wanted to add some more synth layers, so I went into Impulse again and chose the Machine is Dying preset. And I added this very simple counter melody. Sounds a bit dry, it needs some effects. So I started with an EQ, cutting some low end, boosting some high end, a very short but heavy reverb, a fruity delay, and also a shaper box. So now it sounds like this. Now the next element is the vocals. This is what takes the sample from good to great. Obviously Kendrick samples actual records, so I wanted to create that really vintage, realistic sound. I did 3 vocal layers. This is the first one. All it has is auto-tune on.
Love me, baby, love me. Girl, you know I can't love you more than I.
So I came up with the lyrics, I came up with the melody. It sounds okay, but I need to layer it a couple of times to make it sound really realistic and really good. So this first layer is going to be central. This is going to be the main vocal. Then I added this second layer, which is panned to the right.
Love me, baby, love me. Girl, you know I can't love you more than I.
And finally is the third layer, which is panned to the left.
Love me, baby, love me. Girl, you know I can't love
You can hear on each one there's different harmonies and different melodies. This is a great way to make your vocals sound much more complex and much more interesting. Also makes it sound much more realistic. I wanted to process these vocals kind of like an actual song rather than a sample. Normally when I add vocals to a sample, I filter them out, make sure they're super low and distant. But this time I wanted to make it sound like a real song. And obviously that means the vocals are going to be much more present. So first off, I have auto tune. I have this waves compressor. This really brings the vocal out, makes it stand out really well. If you guys want to get any of the waves plugins, there's going to be links in the description. Go and check those out. I added an alter boy, very standard. Then I chose the vocal dub preset in Cleverb and an EQ, cutting some low end, a little bit of the high end, but not as much as I normally would. The second vocal has the exact same chain on, but this time I chose the vocal chorus preset. And for the third vocal, I added a vintage verb. Again, just to slightly switch it up, give it a different sound. And when they all come together, it sounds really good. As I've been saying, I wanted this to sound like a really real sample. And for me, the best way to do that is to put it into Fruity Slicer and mess around with it. So I did exactly that. I brought the pitch down by a few semitones and I brought the attack up as well. I'm going to play how this sounds, but one little trick I want to show you guys. If you've got something in Fruity Slicer, what I've actually done is if you zoom in all the way, I've brought each note back very slightly. You almost can't hear it, but it just adds a little bit of bounce, a little bit of variety. For that part of the sample, I took out some of the synth elements. I wanted to make the vocals and the piano the focal point of the sample. So for the first 8 bars, we got the chopped sample. Then I brought in the natural sample as it is with the synth elements as well. So each half of the sample sounds completely different. It feels different. But yeah, I'm just going to play the sample for you guys and then I'll see you in the outro. Okay, so that's my attempt at a Kendrick Lamar style sample. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and a comment. Let me know what you want to see next. Of course, don't forget to subscribe, join the Discord, follow me on all my socials, and I'll see you guys in the next one.